It's time to step into the big leagues because now we are talking about the reserve list. This is the top 10 selling reserve list cards this week from March 23rd to the 30th of 2024. This video is jam-packed with knowledge that you need to know and understand to get a better idea of what's happening in the reserve list right now. Hi everyone and welcome back. MTG Moxman here. Thanks again for hanging out with me for another top 10 reserve list video. And a reminder before we get the action started today that if you enjoy my content, you can support this channel by turning on your notification bell, hitting that subscribe button, or of course using my TCG Player affiliate link if you're shopping with TCG Player. Click the link found in the description of this video and you're supporting me. Now let's go down and check out the number 10 card this week. It's Revised Edition Volcanic Island. This thing had 38 sales this week for a total sales volume of $26,189.60. Now, Volcanic Island, of course, is a very expensive dual land. Of course, so is things like the Underground Sea, and there's been a lot of movement in the last 90 days when we're talking about dual lands. Numerous versions of these cards have made it into the top 10 because players have been looking for those heavily played and damaged copies that they can play with. But here's what I'm going to throw you guys. Here's a bit of a bone so you guys can understand what's going on out there. Because the prices are shifting in the heavily played and damaged category, because the cards are costing more, players are even starting to buy graded copies, because it's not that big of a price difference. Keep that in mind. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our number 9 card, which of course has been on the list now, I think for 5 weeks. We've seen the price shifting all over and the price is still trending downward. Copy Artifact has a lot of downward pressure and the price has been shifting downward by $5 to $10 every couple of weeks. This is a great sign for the card for players who want to get it. It's becoming more affordable again. It's not the $90 level. It's all the way down to $74, but with 43 sales this week, that's still $3,224.57 in sales volume for near mint copies. The good news is you can find heavily played copies. You can find the moderately played, and you know what? A light played you can still get for around $60 US. So there's some great deals when you're buying this card. And again, this was in my top 10 cards you should be owning. You can catch that video. It was on the weekend. I did a big triple play of 3 videos. If you've missed those, go check out the one that says this is the one you should be buying. Yeah, you'll see. You'll find it. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our number 8 card this week. This is Mox Diamond. Now again, this is going to kind of go the way of Volcanic Island here, guys. It's got 48 sales, which is $30,000+ in sales volume. The price is $629.99. This is $629, tons of money. But here's the thing, it's still got a lot of downward pressure considering there's not a lot of copies in the market. The price is shifting downward. It's losing about $20 a month right now. There will be a reckoning where things will even out, but here's the real crux of what's going on. Because players want this card and can't find it, a lot of graded copies are starting to move on things like eBay and in some private ownership equities. We're seeing a lot of players start to shift their cards around where players who are willing to spend the money can get the graded copies, crack them open, and actually play with the card. This is kind of weird, I know, but it's actually happening. You can just check all kinds of completed listings and look around in your Facebook groups. You'll know what I'm talking about. So for that reason, Mox Diamond takes the number 8 position. There's a lot of money moving around in that particular card. Now let's go to our next card. We're going to check out Braingeyser. Again, this was in the video I mentioned. Braingeyser used to be like a $75 card. This thing's down to $16.85. It's one of the best draw cards ever made. This thing has 51 sales, and it does have 2 blue plus X, target player, must draw X cards. Okay, target player, very interesting. But for the total sales volume, though, of $859, that was only 51 sales. Some of these were graded copies, by the way, which is very interesting. But when I look at the overall market value and the price of this card, I'm glad it's this cheap. It's not a super competitive card compared to what we used to see, but it sees a lot of commander play. And of course, I still use this kind of stuff in my vintage legacy decks because I like watching people draw 150 cards a turn. It's very fun. So an amazing card, and I can understand why people would want to get their hands on it. Iconic artwork that should never be forgiven or forgotten. It's just one of those cards everyone should own. And the fact you can go on TCG Player and buy one for $7.50 means, yeah, don't say you can't afford it. Just stop quibbling and haggling and saying, and just go buy it. Go buy yourself a copy. Now our next card. Here we go. We're back and revised. And we are talking about Wheel of Fortune. Now this again is one of those cards that is just amazing. 55 sales this week, and of course, $17,000 plus in sales volume. The average price is $320. It is kind of interesting to see that we have a card that people desire. We have a card that's barely moving in price though. Even though there's consistent high sales, it seems to have a real hard time right now busting through to higher levels of actual increase in price, which is great for everyone who needs to get a copy. Because most of the copies moving are the heavily played and damaged copies, it isn't shifting the price forward. It's keeping everything at an equilibrium that is really beneficial to sellers and buyers right now in the market space. So it's great to see, guys. Let's keep this up. Everyone can get a little bit of fun and afford it. Leash of Hollows comes up next today. Now, this is from Weatherlight. And with all the squirrel conversations we're having, I know it almost hurt me saying that, the 61 sales this week is only $322.69. of sales volume. That's next to nothing. It's a couple of dollars card. But that doesn't mean you can't have entire squirrel armadas, Star Trek style, like the Borg, coming to get you, to wipe you out with the Infinity Squirrel Armada ring. I'm just saying, cards like this are crazy, they're fun, they're easy to use, and they're reserve list cards that are really cheap. I've already said that people should always buy Deranged Hermit. They should always have at least one copy in case you're ever going to be a squirrel deck person. But the idea that cards like this just can never come around again in the same way they used to, or if Wizards ever goes ahead and breaks the card, this gives you a one-up because you already have a different version of it. It's an amazing card. Spend the $5, buy a copy. What can I say? There's nothing else to go with that one. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at our next card. We're getting kind of interesting, guys, because this is the Phyrexian Dreadnought. This is from Mirage. Now, when you look at this card, you see it's a 1 casting cost, 12/12 with trample. When the Phyrexian Dreadnought comes into play, sacrifice any number of creatures with a total power of 12 or more, or bury the Dreadnought. But what people like to do is cast this with Stifle to stop the triggered ability from going off and just giving you a 12/12 for 1 with trample. It's an insane card, and there are ways of killing people on turn 1 and 2 if you can do this thing correctly with the right kind of mana flow. I've seen this thing go off a couple of times in even some bigger matches in Commander as an end game type fun card. It's amazing, but the price has been jumping up. 93 sales this week in the number 4 position. That's 13,950 sales. And get this, guys, it's getting hard to find. There's not a lot of copies out there in the market space, but there will be. So be patient. The higher this card goes in price, the more likely there are to have people going out there finding the card and dumping it on the market to capitalize on some of that income. Now our next card is Deranged Hermit, coming to us from Urza's Legacy. That's right, guys. This thing still has 109 sales this week, $5,450 in sales volume, and the average price has finally reached the $50 mark. Now that's a far cry from what we saw about a month and a half ago, seeing this thing at around the $39 mark, or 2 months ago when it was like $26. It's kind of nutty to think how far this card has come. The closer we get to Modern Horizons 3, the more we think of BloomBurrow, the more we think of the squirrels coming, the more excited players get, the more irrational the FOMO takes over. Any player with patience can wait till after these sets come out, pick this thing on the downtrend. Do not buy it now. This is not a card to buy at the moment unless you have to build that squirrel deck right away. Let's go ahead and take a look at the number 2 card, and it deserves to be here. This is Soldevi Excavations, taking the number 2 position this week with 124 sales, or $1,609.52. Now, this is an interesting thing to take a look at because we did this on the channel. On the channel, on the live stream, we went out and bought this card. It's amazing. It's fun. As you guys recall, I love this card, and we did a little mini buyout. Didn't cost a lot of money to do it. We wanted to see how the market would react. And yes, there was a resurgence of people buying this card in the after effect, showing the easy terms in which market manipulation still flows through the market space of Magic the Gathering and the secondary market for reserve list cards. To wipe this card off the market, you only need $7,000 US, and you can wipe out every known source found on the major themes and stores. Okay, you can just wipe it out. If you have $7,000, you can take every copy off the market everywhere, assuming you can get to card market, but that's how much money it would take. Now let's go and take a look at the number 1 card. Number 1 this week, coming in with a bang, is Tombstone Stairwell. This card comes in with 283 sales this week, or $4,522.34 in sales volume. It's a 2 black, 2 generic enchant world with a cumulative upkeep of 1 black, 1 generic. During each upkeep, each player puts into play a Tombstone token for each summon card in his or her graveyard. These are treated as 2/2 black creatures and are unaffected by summoning sickness and count as zombies. At the end of any turn, the Tombstone Stairwell leaves play, bury all the tokens. So you can get massive armies of tokens. And really, in a zombie deck and all the craziness we can do, you can see why this card might be desired by some people building with zombie decks, especially with some of the new cards coming in from Thunder Junction. But either way, this is definitely a speculation in the market space. That's why you're seeing this little upsurge. It's going to get worse as the week goes on, as more people maybe take notice and decide to buy into this market. All right, let's get to the wrap up today. The market for reserve list cards does continue to grow, and as you can see from the sales figures I've shown you today, these are only the top 10 cards that were noted by me. These are not the honorable mentions like Fork or Scrubland, Plateau, Taiga that all almost made the list. Even Tropical Island at 23 sales almost has enough sales volume to be a $20,000 sales volume card, although it didn't make the list because of the number of sales. The reserve list continues to see money moving around inside that market space. You could say it's the end of the year tax returns for players coming in. You could say it's people refusing to buy a play booster box and go ahead and buy their first dual land. The reasons are varied and they are many, but the fact is, players believe the reserve list value will hold. They believe these cards are going to hold the long-term value they need to make sure that they didn't feel like they wasted their money buying cardboard. Guys, the reserve list is amazing. I can't wait to see where these sales go in the next few months. But either way, it's going to be a great ride, and I can't wait to share it along with you guys as we travel down this path of the reserve list. Thanks again for hanging out with me today. Thanks for stopping by the channel. And of course, don't forget, bring a friend to Magic, and I will see you all tomorrow for another video. Hey guys, a big shout out and thank you to the fantastic patrons we have here on the channel. Because of all the amazing patrons that help out here and allow for this daily uploaded content to happen for everyone to enjoy on YouTube, I just can't stress enough how great it is having that support. So thanks again to each and every one of my YouTube membership members and my patrons. I'll see you guys tomorrow.